Steve Jobs is remembered as one of the greatest innovators of all time. But his journey wasn't a straight path to success. It was a story filled with genius, drama, failure, and the most legendary comeback in business history. Let's rewind to the beginning. In 1976, Jobs and Steve Wozniak started Apple in a small garage. Their mission was simple: make computers personal. The Apple II became a massive hit. It turned Apple into a rising star in Silicon Valley, but Jobs wasn't satisfied. He wanted to change the world again. In 1984, Apple launched the Macintosh. It was sleek, bold, and revolutionary. But there was a problem. The Mac was expensive. It didn't sell as well as Jobs had hoped. Inside Apple, tensions began to rise. Jobs was brilliant, but he was also demanding and difficult to work with. The board of directors lost confidence in him. And in 1985, in a shocking move, Steve Jobs was forced out of Apple, the company he had founded. For Jobs, it was devastating. He was only 30 years old. The press called it the end of his career. But instead of quitting, Jobs turned failure into opportunity. He founded a new company called Next. The technology was advanced, but the computers were too expensive. Next struggled to gain traction, yet it would later play a critical role in Apple's revival. At the same time, Jobs made another bold move. He bought a small animation studio from George Lucas. That studio would later become Pixar, and Pixar changed animation forever. Toy Story became the first fully computer-animated film. It was a global success. Suddenly, Jobs was back on top. Meanwhile, Apple was in trouble. Without Jobs, the company lost its vision. Products failed to impress. Competitors like Microsoft dominated the market. By the mid-1990s, Apple was on the brink of collapse. Some analysts even predicted bankruptcy. But in 1997, everything changed. Apple needed new software to survive, so it bought Next. And with that deal, Steve Jobs returned to Apple. At first, he was only an advisor. But soon, Jobs became CEO once again, and his comeback would transform Apple into the most valuable company on earth. Jobs simplified Apple's product line. He cut unnecessary projects. He focused the company on design, innovation, and user experience. In 1998, Apple launched the iMac. It was colorful, fun, and unlike any computer on the market. The iMac was a hit. Apple was back, but Jobs wasn't done. In 2001, Apple introduced the iPod. It put 1,000 songs in your pocket. The iPod changed the music industry. Then came iTunes, which changed how people bought music. And in 2007, Jobs unveiled the iPhone. It wasn't just a phone. It was a computer, a music player, and a communication device all in one. The iPhone revolutionized the entire tech world. It became Apple's most successful product ever. A few years later, the iPad followed. Once again, critics were skeptical, but it sold millions. Apple had not only survived, it had become unstoppable. Sadly, Steve Jobs' story was also marked by illness. He'd battled cancer for years. In 2011, he stepped down as CEO. Shortly after, he passed away at the age of 56, but his legacy lives on. From the garage to global dominance, Jobs reshaped technology and culture. He showed the world that failure is not the end. It can be the beginning of something greater. His fall made his comeback even more powerful. Today, Apple is the world's most valuable company. And it all traces back to the vision, the resilience, and the relentless drive of Steve Jobs. So the story of Steve Jobs is more than just business history. It's a reminder that even when you lose everything, you can rise again. And sometimes the comeback is greater than the setback.